Hello, Algorators. Court is back in session. I'm Al Reynolds, and this is the Court of Public Opinion. But this is a special edition riding on the heels of Diddy Do It. This is the sixth official installment of the new shocking developments behind the Diddy case. And guess what? We're going to break it down here tonight on the Court of Public Opinion. We have joining with us our Legal Beagles entertainment attorney, Jay Carter. Jay Carter, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion.
Hi, thanks for having me back. I love your order.
Absolutely. We have our criminal defense attorney straight from Miami, Florida, one of the states which is greatly involved in this particular incident with P. Diddy. We have a criminal defense attorney, Brian Ross. Brian Ross, welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion.
My two favorite words, not guilty.
Cut it out now. And last up, we have our civil attorney. Yep, the one, the only, the Symone Redwine. Symone Redwine, welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion.
Hey guys, so glad to be here.
Now, for those who are not familiar with the Court of Public Opinion, we were the court that actually started the internet crave around the coverage of the Diddy case. It was Symone Redwine and Brian Ross who joined me in our original series, Did You Do It?, on my YouTube channel at D.L. Reynolds, the Court of Public Opinion. It's in the playlist. So if you're behind and you want to get caught up, be sure to go to that playlist and we'll take you from series 1 all the way through 6 will be at the end of the night. All right, everybody, you know what this is. This is a Court of Public Opinion, but you will be serving as the jury, and we definitely want to hear from you tonight because I know you have just as many questions and concerns as I do the judge, and we're going to have our legal beagles break down all and answer all of your questions. All right, so be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, you know what we do here. Hit that share button, turn on your notifications because we're going to be covering this all the way through until we see what the courts decide. Is he guilty or not guilty? Also, jump in those comments tonight because we got a whole lot to cover, and I know that you're going to have a whole lot of questions. All right, court is now in session. All right, first up, Sean John Combs. Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. In this case, this is the United States Attorney General in the Southern District versus Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. P. D, a.k.a. Love. Now, we know after 300 grand jury subpoenas. So there were 300 grand jury subpoenas and 50 witnesses. Counselor Damon Williams, the U.S. attorney, has decided to charge P. Diddy with 3 charges. Those 3 charges are racketeering, sex trafficking, and prostitution. All right, first question. Attorney Brian Ross, you're the criminal defense attorney here. Why was it important for Counselor Williams to list all of these names on the complaint? Attorney Brian Ross, you're muted.
Sorry about that, Judge. I have kids and they come in my studio and play with my stuff. I apologize. It is. Are you talking about as in Diddy, aka
Yes.
Love?
You Diddy.
Well, here's why. Each one of those names is a personality. It is a part of his persona, an alter ego, right? So if you name Sean Combs, Diddy, P. Diddy, and skip out Love, if Love did something under the pretense of love, it could be construed that Love was not guilty of something. So you have to go by every single entity that he's used under the quote unquote enterprise to make sure that you get them all. It's a catch.
Got it. Symone, let me get your advice on this. See, I was thinking some text people may call him P. Diddy. Some text people may call him Love. Some people might call him Diddy. Could that be a reason, why they want to make sure after looking at all the evidence that all the names that were used when reference to him are covered in this case? Are you muted? I think you're muted.
Yep, sorry. So those are acronyms. So I think in the grand scheme of things, right, you're going to get him regarded. Like if somebody calls you Nay Nay from up the street and your real name is Janaisha, right? It's all Nay Nay. But here, in order to have RICO, you have to show it's a criminal enterprise. I believe that's why they listed Combs Enterprises, Bad Boy, etc. Because now you're listing multiple enterprises that have worked together to effectuate this. And it's going to enable them to track the money and then seize all that property, those assets, the stock, and all of the things that they asked for in the indictment forfeiture.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about this really quickly because there's so many questions I want to ask and I want to unveil here. All right. Everybody knows if you never want to end up in the Southern District, right? The word is you never want to end up on the other side of the fence with Damian Williams. Attorney Brian Ross, why is it that everyone is so afraid to have their case reviewed in the Southern District? Because listen, this happened in California. This happened in Florida. This happened in New York. Why did New York trump all the other jurisdictions? And why are people afraid to be tried in the Southern District?
Well, look at the long list of people that have been convicted in this jurisdiction, right? Jeffrey Epstein, Maxwell, Sam Bankman-Friedman with FTX. This is a place where, unfortunately, a lot of crime happens. Why? You got Wall Street, where there's a lot of white collar crime. You have New York. All the businesses in New York fall under the federal district. Think about the number of people who immigrate into this country in and out for whatever reason through New York. All of that falls under that jurisdiction. So they're especially talented at securing convictions for certain type of complicated crimes in that jurisdiction. It's a very scary place to be indicted, let me tell you.
Now, it also is allegedly a very aggressive timeline district. So it's supposed to be fast-paced litigation process. Attorney Redwine, why do you think that this could possibly not work in Diddy's favor?
Oh, he's going to have to be ready to go to trial ASAP. Now, he probably wants to because right now he's sitting in a jail cell protecting his bottom hole. However, with this court, he is. Take that. But here, in this situation, he wants to cover up that hole and get on out of there. Right now, it would be delusional to think that he's going to be able to get away with all three of the crimes. We'll talk about that separately. But here, absolutely, they want to move quickly. But it's going to be challenging because the document showed that there were over 300 subpoenas issued. And
what does that mean? What does that mean?
That means that's 300 separate people that they wanted to come before the grand jury and or to appear at trial.
Wow. Insane. And 50 witnesses. What does that mean?
Now, was it 50 witnesses? Brian, help me out
50 witnesses. And what did Symone and Brian say to your honor when we started this in January or February, whatever month it was?
Too many witnesses.
Too many witnesses.
So when they say that there are 300 subpoenas and 50 witnesses, this grand jury has basically listened and heard from all 50 witnesses?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. No. Okay. They sent those witness lists out. Some people have moved. They couldn't locate them. It's not this like super efficient process. Some people say, hey, talk to my lawyer. I have nothing to say. Some witnesses say, look, I had a great time on South Beach that night. I ain't trying to talk about what I did. Let's be honest, okay? Okay, let's be honest. Some folks
you said that like you're spoken from experience.
I've
had my boat around that island a couple of times. I never went inside, in case you want to know, all right?
Excuse me, counselor. Counselor, did you forget she hung out with me on South Beach?
You were on the boat too.
Many years. We will not lie in the court of public opinion.
You should make us
that we won't have.
Votes. You should make us votes before we talk.
We should be there. That's right. That's right.
I
That's
tell
right.
my business all the time, so I don't even need to take an oath. Everybody that knows I dated one of Diddy's sex workers, my little gay boyfriend.
That's true. You got a touch point as well. That's so interesting. Let me tell you something. I actually was called to the grand jury in the Southern District, and I was petrified. When I worked on Wall Street, I had a client who tried to, fraud the government, create a fake company, and sell stocks. I had to go in front of the grand jury. And so one of the things about the grand jury that all of our algoritmors need to know, and attorneys help me out here, you can't lie. Because if they catch you in a lie, you are skipping go and you're going straight to jail. Am I wrong, attorneys?
No,
No, it is a federal
you're not
crime
wrong.
to lie
It's perjury.
to a federal officer.
It's perjury. Yeah, perjury is, you don't want to perjure yourself on the state level. You don't want to perjure yourself on the federal. You don't want to perjure yourself, period. That's why with a lot of these celebrity cases, people are so scared to go on the stand because they know the minute they lie, it's over for them. They can actually be brought back in on a separate charge.
Right.
But I want to
And
make
just-
an important distinction between state court and federal court, which is this.
Okay.
In state court, you can lie to the cops. You can lie basically as long as you're not on the stand. But in federal court, you cannot lie to an FBI investigator, whether that's Homeland Security, FBI, any of that. And that doesn't mean whether if you meet one on the street, it doesn't have to be like in an interrogation room. If they are asking you questions, you always have to tell the truth, or that is a federal offense.
And you know what's so scary? When I was in the grand jury, they were asking questions that they clearly had evidence.
Yes.
So they were waiting for you to say that you know a lie because they were ready to throw the book at you. All right, Symone, let's go really quickly because I think this is very important. What laid the groundwork to these federal charges? Like what actually, because we found out from racketeering to sex trafficking to the prostitution, it's been going on almost 20 years. So what laid the groundwork for these federal charges?
The groundwork was laid by the New York law that protects gender motivated crimes. That was the law that had reopened the window for Cassie to file her civil complaints. Now, I was one of the first attorneys. I drafted the first legal complaint against R. Kelly in New York State under the same law, a prior version. I was part of that legal team. I created that strategy. I was the one I was licensed in New York State. And when I looked at New York laws, where in that situation, R. Kelly was committed his crimes, he also did some in Chicago and others, I realized that New York law is the most supportive of female victims in this situation. And what happens is in those cases, first you file civilly, you get all your evidence, and you simply trot that over to the feds. You trot that over to the prosecutor's office. And by helping them do the work, and then by you suing someone, in this instance, who is an international celebrity, they look crazy letting this person get away with the crime. So they have to look into it at that point.
God, but what, Jay Carter, help me out here. What took them so long? I just find it very interesting that now you're going to say, oh, guess what? He's been doing it since 2008. He's been doing it since 2009. Okay, so y'all been following the dude this whole time, but never had enough evidence to charge him? What? Help me out here, Jay Carter.
Okay, well, I'm going to answer this two ways. The first way is more the PC way. The state, the state. I'll answer first the PC way. So essentially, before these crimes were happening in individual states, right? So these were state charges. Once you go past 10 or 15 years, the statute of limitation expires. Why do you think that California can't go after him with him beating up Cassie on tape? So it's not that, it's just that in their minds, it's like, well, what's the point of us trying to go after him on the state level if the statute of limitations had passed? Federal basically would have had to insert itself basically long time ago. So federal didn't insert itself long time ago. The non-PC answer is the reason why they didn't insert themselves long time ago because Diddy also had a lot of cops and feds on his payroll. That's the non-PC answer. So at the end of the day, if and I'll put allegedly behind that. So at the end of the day, if you have him committing crimes, let's just say primarily in New York, California, and Miami, right? New York, California, and Miami, they're not talking to each other. They're not saying, hey, what's going over in New York? Hey, what's going over in Miami? They're not talking to each other. These crimes are happening on state level. So if you have police and or others allegedly helping him to cover it up, then it was never going to rise to the federal level in the first place. It only rose to the federal level because the civil complaints got out nationally. And it the federal prosecutors to say, okay, here's a chance for us to finally get him federally. They're not going to get him on a state level because of statute of limitations. We'll get him federally because he crossed lines with his victims. Not that I'm giving people advice to commit crimes, but if you want advice, commit your crime in your state, okay?
Commit your crime in your state.
Right. The minute you cross a state line with your state, you're facing a federal charge and federal time, and it's much more serious. So commit your crimes locally. Do not cross state lines. R. Kelly, same thing. If he had just kept those girls in the house.
Oh, wait a minute now. Wait a minute, Jay Carter. What we're not gonna say is if he only, assaulted the girls.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to do it, keep it safe.
Just kidnap them.
You know what? I'm gonna say this, Judge. What Jay Carter just said is brilliant. And I remember being in law school thinking, how come, and I had nothing to do with me, how come marijuana is illegal everywhere? And they came up with this theory called the stream of commerce. And she's exactly right. So if you met your prostitute in Illinois and kept her in Illinois, you're good. But the federal government is sneaky. If your prostitute came here from Peru and moved through LA and wound up in Illinois, and they hit you with a RICO because the carriers brought her from Peru through California and transported her to Chicago to watch the Bears play, and that's where you met her, you can be charged the same as the entire boat that dropped them all off at LA Harbor.
Oh,
so
wow.
The stream of commerce is tricky. And this is where I think if you read the indictment, they keep saying commerce. Because they're saying that he was on South Beach. Like I said, I pulled up on my boat. I didn't go in the house. But I did not go in the house while you laughing. But
good and well, you took me to that
house. I saw the strobe lights. It was late, okay? But in the end, they're saying that these sex workers, male and female, who were physically beaten, coerced, put in apartments, paid rent for, and then told, unless you come over tonight at midnight for the freak off, your rent's not going to be paid tomorrow. Your career is over, Danny Kane. Things of that nature. These people came from everywhere, which gives the federal government jurisdiction. And now I understand why Homeland Security was the one who investigated it, because they have the broadest jurisdiction.
That was my question. Why did they lead with Homeland Security? Symone, I want to ask you this question, though. So basically, Cassie was the whistleblower. She rang the alarm.
Yes.
She exercised exactly what you said. She rang the alarm and she made it aware. But Little Rod, he threw gasoline on the fire. Is that fair to say? Because what he did, he came behind Cassie and gave pictures. The guns that we saw seized were the guns that were in his complaint, right? Allegedly. Like everything that he
I'm not
said.
Sure about that. I'll be honest. I don't really trust his complaint. I do not like how it was written. I do not like the structure. That
you don't like that lawyer.
What's that?
You don't like that lawyer. I don't want to. I'm not lean so much on that. What I want to lean on is the action. The action. Let's talk about the action. Because
so speaking to the action specifically, it's notable that none of the indictment cites to Little Rod. None of it does. And I found that very telling. I think that speaks to the fact that perhaps the feds feel that there's a credibility issue. There were two witnesses that were referenced in the federal indictment in their documentation. That was Cassie and that was Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi is the person who was allegedly kidnapped and then had his car set on fire by Diddy and Diddy's henchmen, effectively. But not one of Little Rod's allegations were anywhere mentioned in the indictment and did not result in any of the charges.
Okay, so tell me then, why did he just get, arrested 2 days ago?
Well, so it takes time. Yeah, go ahead. You want to do
I was just going to say, as we mentioned before, it takes time. So I'm sure
15 years, Jay Carter.
Yes, years. Well, it's not really years. The civil complaint that opened this up was last November, right? So that was almost a year ago. The raids weren't until March of this year? So it hasn't technically been years. It hasn't. It's only technically been, let's just backdate it to Cassie's complaint. The federal people have not seriously been investigating Diddy before Cassie's complaint. It may have kind of been on their radar, but they didn't really do. So it's not like, oh, since 1990 when he was, dancing all up in the videos, that's where their you see what I'm saying? Their investigation started. Yes, they heard of things. Everybody hears rumors, but a federal prosecutor is not. At that time, federal prosecutors didn't have video. They weren't having states cooperate with them, right? They weren't arresting them on a state level. The federal government, I'm gonna be honest, they didn't start really looking at this until Cassie's complaint mentioned sex trafficking. The minute she mentioned a federal crime in her complaint, that is what set this off. And so that is why it took so long. But really, it's just since last November. They weren't seriously looking into him before then. And
you mean federally, even though he's been known undercurrent allegedly to be kidnapping people, threatening to kill people, shooting people.
You also have to recognize nobody was able to successfully report it to the police. It has to start there. If nobody's able to report it, right? Because the evidence that comes up missing. So from Cassie's complaint, it sounded like she was absolutely ready to go and get help to report it, but that the footage disappeared. The only way she would know that the footage disappeared is if she was making attempts. She likely went to the police and, made complaints there. Also, in the indictment, it references the fact that, for example, with the arson complaint, with that situation, that police reports were filed back in the day and nothing was done. So it sounds like people have been trying. And like my peers have said, he was able to pay people off. That's why he's sitting in the cell today.
Yeah, there's definitely a police
obstruction
report.
of justice.
Yes, Cassie, there is one police report. So when Cassie's civil complaint came out, TMZ did find one police report back in California where they were fighting in the street. So there's a record of them fighting, but nothing ever came out of it. So when you say what took so long, if at the end of the day the state is not going to prosecute it, how would it trickle its way up to on a federal level? It just simply wouldn't. Yeah.
But
all right, everybody that's watching, be sure to hit that like button. Our likes aren't like, and if you're watching tonight and you're enjoying the commentary from my three legal beagles discussing Diddy Do It case, please hit the like button. Also, this is the time for all those that are not subscribed to hit that subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, hit that share button. I told you tonight we're going to break it all down. We're bringing it all out of the closet and from under the rugs. We're going to reveal everything to you here tonight. All right, don't also turn on your notifications because we're going to be covering this for the next couple of days and jump in those comments. Come on, put your questions. If you have any questions on anything that we've shared with you so far, be sure to throw it in the comments because we're going to cover it shortly. All right, before we go into the charges or before we talk, I want to use this time to explain to people what the charges are. I'm going to start with your legal criminal defense attorney, Brian Ross. What has to happen for you to be charged with sex trafficking?
Okay, so they charged Diddy with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and it's important, Judge, to say it, by force, fraud, or coercion. All right.
So that's Cassie.
That's exactly right. It's force, fraud, or coercion. All right. And so basically, to sum it up in layman's terms, is I'm going back to my definition here. He told you have to come here to me from wherever you're at, or I will hurt you, take away the money I've given you, or your job opportunities. I'll blackball you. Or don't worry, baby. I love you, baby. You know I love you. Come and bring 3 of your friends over to my house too. Well, I'm a little ashy. Don't worry, I got some baby oil in the house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was there before and you were short on baby oil. Don't worry, baby. We restocked that. We got a lot of baby oil. We went to Walmart last night. You bought 1,000 bottles? So that is exactly what that means. Now, I can be technical about it, but that's the summary of it, okay?
Okay, got it. All right, so that's the sex trafficking. What is the interstate, Symone, what's the interstate transportation to engage in prostitution? Would that be, let me ask this question. Would that be considered beyond just Cassie? Would that be considered how Daphne Joy got introduced into this case? Because
you got it right.
That Daphne Joy would go to Miami or would go to LA and would hire or would call the actual commercial sex workers, the male escorts. She was the one that set up the appointments. Is that why they tacked that on?
So they didn't reference her. They actually referenced an agency. So, but yes, it would be whatever agency it was that hired the escorts and then flew them out to the destinations. So basically, it was transporting hookers. Okay, he's charged with transporting hookers across state lines. So again, like Jay said, if he would have just got him a little local hooker, he would have been okay with respect to that charge. But it was getting that agency and doing it.
So because it's my understanding, so Daphne Joy, Cassie's role, because Cassie made it very clear, she had to call the male prostitutes, coordinate the time that they would come to the hotel to perform whatever acts needed to be performed. She was the one setting it up. So Daphne Joy took that role on in after. So is Daphne Joy in any danger in these charges?
Well, actually, Al, you actually make a good point. I hope the feds aren't listening. If they're not already,
they are listening. Absolutely, assume they are.
They are listening. Okay, so if the feds are listening, you're kind of leading them down the path of what they're thinking in terms of strategy, in terms of getting people to cooperate. You have to remember, folks like Cassie, Daphne, allegedly Young Miami,
allegedly.
Anybody that helped to coordinate prostitutes across state lines, again, including Cassie. Cassie is guilty of this too. And this is not victim shaming. This is just the law. Literally, the law says knowingly transport any individual in the U.S. or the possession with the intent that the individual will engage in prostitution or other sexual behaviors. So if you knowingly know you're calling up somebody in California to meet you in New York, even if Cassie, you are a part of this enterprise. So you're actually answering your own question, Al. Folks like Daphne, Cassie, again, allegedly Young Miami, and anybody else or an agency. Again, this is why it's important to talk about the enterprise, and I'll talk about that once you ask me about racketeering conspiracy. I'll talk.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the racketeering, because you got me really interested now. All right, so let's talk about the racketeering, because it's racking my brain to try to figure out what racketeering conspiracy actually is. Before you answer that, we know that with the racketeering, they're introducing RICO. If you introduce in RICO, I mean, the people that were in those freak-offs that were famous, it's coming out, right?
It's bad.
It's going to eventually come out because they're going to start to cite examples. Those examples have to include individuals. So let's just start at the top. Racketeering conspiracy, you have to show that there is a criminal enterprise. This case is actually very similar to the Young Thug YSL RICO case in Georgia. We're saying that the YSL record label, it is a legitimate record label, but it is also a criminal enterprise where they knowingly plan crimes or they actually commit crimes under this, technically this legitimate YSL label. So let's put it in the Diddy context. Bad boys for life, bad boys enterprises, whatever you want to call it. This is a legitimate record label, right? It's legitimate. Yes. We've heard the songs. I heard a song earlier today.
I danced to them.
Right.
I was dancing to it in college.
And I'll still dance to the songs, okay? So it is a legitimate record label. However, what they're saying is it also was a criminal enterprise used to manipulate, coerce, and force victims across state lines to perform sexual acts that they didn't want to perform. So under the RICO, you can be found guilty of racketeering conspiracy, which Diddy is being charged with the following elements. Number one, the existence of the enterprise. We already said
it exists.
We already know it exists.
Check.
Number two, effect on interstate commerce. The enterprise must have affected interstate or foreign commerce. We already know if
flying up from New York to Miami to LA.
It could be anything.
Check.
It could be anything. It could be drugs too. It could be drugs. It could be anything that went Right. Anything that goes across state lines. Okay.
Yeah.
3. Association with the enterprise. The defendant, Diddy, must have been associated with or employed by the enterprise.
So he's the president and founder. Yes, that's
exactly.
3. Check.
4. Pattern of racketeering activity. The defendant must have engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity requiring at least 2 acts of racketeering activity within a 10-year period.
So well, that explains the lube. That explains the baby oil.
Yes. So I'm going to just talk about that briefly. I know people are wondering why, they took pictures of how many guns they were. They counted up all the baby oils, right?
Yeah.
They listed all the prescription drugs and illegal drugs that were found. Why did they do all this? Okay, setting aside the illegal drugs for just a second here. Prescription drugs are not illegal. Baby oil is not illegal. Registered guns are not illegal. However, they become illegal when you use them, as in this indictment describes, tools. They were tools of manipulation, tools of force, tools of coercion. So baby oil is legal, but the minute you use it to put it inside of a sex act that somebody doesn't really want to do, then that baby oil, again, is a tool of force. Okay?
Symone, what is the lube used for?
Butt stuff. Butt stuff. It's for the butt. It's for the butt.
Symone, as your attorney and advisor, I'm going to advise you not to walk into that trap.
I know what it's used for.
I'm just saying.
What did you say?
What
did you say?
The lube is used because he got a bunch of ashy kids at a private school. You're trying to
not you, Brian. You have a wife. You don't know what goes on in these things.
Symone, please. Symone has dated one of the guys, right? That was a part of this enterprise. What is the Brian Ross, please.
And we broke up because he kept doing butt stuff. He wanted to I want to do butt stuff. And I said, I don't want to. I'm a good Catholic school girl. I'm an exit only kind of woman. No, we're not doing that. But the lube was for bussy. Okay, it's for butt stuff, but a bussy.
But to be fair,
allegedly.
But here's the thing. To be fair, in addition to butt stuff, baby oil can be used.
No, I said lubricant. They found lubricant and
baby oil.
I asked specifically, what is the lubricant?
Oh, okay.
Now, let me tell you something. My ex-boyfriend, my gay ex-boyfriend that used to be one of Diddy's sex workers, he used to wear baby oil like it was a blouse, okay? He always had it on, and he was shining. He was West African man. Dingo. Okay. So I'm like you don't even get ashy like I do. Like I be gray sometimes. And so I'm just saying, sidebar. But
again, the indictment specifically says the guns were used as a tool to threaten. The baby oil and the body oil were used inside of the sexual acts that the people didn't want to do. And then the illegal and legal drugs again were used as a way to manipulate how they felt, right?
Gotcha,
if you're high, you're going to just be freely sexually, or at least you're going to use it as a way to not feel what's about to happen, right? So again, none of these things
not feel what's going to happen.
You're going to feel it the next day, but you're not going to feel it as a night off of that pink powder.
Boy, I am so glad.
That pink powder. Speaking of pink powder, we can't forget that here the pink powder played into part of why the judge didn't grant bail yesterday and on appeal did not as well. It's because they found the pink powder in Diddy's hotel room the night before he was going to get locked up.
Okay, I got my hand up.
Come to the defense attorney. Let's go.
All right. 2 things. 1, as a defense lawyer, if I put my client, I mean, you're a New Yorker. Isn't the Park Hyatt a fancy hotel? Isn't it like an expensive look? If I put you up, I say, check into the Park Hyatt and relax. All right. Order coffee, chill out, get some champagne. I got this. And then the feds come get you and you got pink powder, which in the street term is called Watusi. Dude, you're not helping me out, bro. It's called Watusi.
What does it do?
I represent drug dealers. This pink powder is ketamine mixed with cocaine. It is street known. It aggravates the high of cocaine, according to things I've learned and read. So why is this in your hotel room in the feds? I told you to lay low. I told you to chill out.
That's bad.
You could have had even the Green. You could have had the Bob Marley, and I would have worked with you. But you got an illegal substance. That is now making my job harder, too. I'm going to go ahead and play Diddy's advocate, though. Listen, y'all. These people wanted to party with my client. They wanted to be around him. My client never forced anyone to show up to his $50 million mansion on South Beach. They showed up on their own. I asked them to give up their phones. They put it in the box. They were doing cocaine and drugs before they showed up high in the first place. It's not my fault they wanted to get freaky when they got here. All I did was serve alcohol and turn on music and start dancing around like it was 1997. They did whatever they did. It's not my fault. All these people could have left. I didn't make anybody stay.
Order in my court. I'm not. All right, I want to get to a comment real quick because Death God, you are hilarious. Death God said, all lube and baby oil, but no rubbers found anywhere.
It's interesting. You said
Maybe we're going to talk about that. Maybe that has something. That's a good point, Death God. Maybe that has something to do. I want to go next real quick, everybody, because our time is moving so fast. There's so many questions to the bond package. I found, can I get the bond package put up, please? Terrible. I found this bond package to be so interesting. Could someone please tell me why, in this proposed bond package, why did they require that it be co-signed by not only Sean Combs, but his mother, the mother of his oldest daughter, and the 3 adult sons? Who wants to take that on?
Let me jump in real fast. Let's suppose you come here from Jamaica and you commit a crime, right? You go before the judge. Judge says, well, where are you from? I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. The prosecutor can argue, and this is a quick summary, that the Jamaican defendant does not have substantial ties to the community. His parents live in Jamaica. His kids live in Jamaica. His business is in Jamaica. He was here to hang out with Diddy for a weekend, and there's no reason for us to believe that if we release him out of this incarcerated location, that he's going to come back. Diddy's lawyer did the right thing. We got to show the judge you have substantial ties to the community. Emotional connection is something that judges can review. So my mom, I'm not going to leave my mom. I'm not going to leave my kids. I'm not going to leave my $50 million mansion. I'm not going to leave my $1 billion business. I'm going to avail myself to this jurisdiction and be back for trial. Unfortunately, it wasn't sufficient and he had to stay.
Okay, got it. Now, hold on. The other part that I thought was really interesting in this bond package was, let's go to E. Mr. Combs' travel will be restricted to the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York to attend court, meet with his counsel, and attend medical appointments, which we will address to the court in separate sealed submission, as well as the That's what I was thinking, we didn't have any.
Allegedly, Symone.
Allegedly, for sure. But no, seriously, what is that about? I mean, that really stood out to me. And the reason why that stood out to me, because I remember during the Jussie Smollett case, when he got his jail time, his lawyer said Jussie has medical history that would not be good for him to be in jail. So what is that all about? What's that clause about right there?
Well, it could be anything. I mean, because it's a sealed submission. But let's take it in the worst light, right?
Okay.
There could be that Diddy has some sort of, and this is purely speculation, some sort of disease that even in a jail, like you can't. We're trying cases during COVID. They're letting hundreds of people out of that jail because they have this autoimmune disease that prevents them from fighting off infections. So as a defense lawyer, you want to bring your judges like health. They trust doctors. Doctor, tell me about his psychology. Doctor, tell me about his disease. Doctor, tell me about his surgery. They trust physicians. So when they come in and say he has something that can't be in jail
because he could possibly catch illness in the wrong way, it could be passed.
Correct.
Wow.
Or he himself could get sick and die. Right.
Symone, you're really quiet over there. You're making me concerned. What you thinking?
I think he got herpes. There's no way he's done all the
nasty. Allegedly.
Yeah. I think he
herpes,
allegedly
why
has
do
it.
you have to go to the doctor all the time for
Yeah,
herpes?
you don't have to go to the doctor all the time you have herpes. 80%.
Oh, he's gonna say he got high blood pressure. He got the sugar. He got high blood pressure, diabetes, something like that. So does everybody else in the jailhouse. You can go to the infirmary like
Exactly. That's
every.
nothing. All right, Brian. Thank you for breaking that down. I think that really cleared up that E as into why that it was important. Okay, but let's go to G. The passports of the following family members who have already surrendered their passport to counsel after the raids on Mr. Combs' homes. All right, that's Janice Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse Combs, Delilah Combs, and Love Combs. Why are none of the boys listed? Why didn't any of the boys have to surrender their passports? And the second question, anybody can answer. The second question is, why did it only happen after the raid if he allegedly is innocent until proven guilty?
And third question, Brian, where is Love going? Where's Lovey going? Baby ain't going nowhere by herself.
Where are any of those kids going without an adult?
All right.
Where are any of the kids going without an adult?
Let me break it down.
Okay.
All right. The kids are minors. All right. So let's be a bad guy here and say I'm Diddy.
I hate to tell you. Okay, I want you to get to that, but Janice Combs is nobody's minor.
Okay, but Janice Combs is a person who could be tied to the caretaking of my children. If I am going to go to prison, Brian Ross, the lawyer, for whatever reason, one of the things I would do is entrust my children to my mother, entrust my children to my older sister, right? And that is the conversation.
Take their passports because you're afraid the mama might take all the kids out of the country. That's not making any
sense. If my mom takes my two children to a non-extradition country like Indonesia, where our friend Russell Simmons is currently residing and living very fabulous, I have zero reason. My kids are safe. I've worked out a deal with the Indonesian government not to come back. I'm out. See you later. I don't have
because he can meet the kids. He can meet the kids.
I can meet the kids there. There's school.
Okay, got it. Okay, so why are none of the boys? Why did none of the boys get served?
Well, for one, because
said hell no.
Right. I think that's an accurate statement.
Keep in mind, this was all voluntary. So they proactively did these things in hopes that the judge would see all of it as a good faith effort and then grant him bond, right? So it was like, oh, mommy, don't spank me. I've been punished enough type of thing, including he paid off his $48 million mortgage so that the home could be used as bond, and it didn't work.
Brian, you talked about this before, which I thought was very interesting. Can you explain why he did that? Because I think you said something about.
Okay, so everyone, Judge, some of your viewers may not be old enough to know this, and some of them are because you do have a wide spectrum. O.J. Simpson, right? Yeah. Loses his trial. Nicole Brown Simpson. Johnny Cochran, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Everyone remembers that. On the backside of it, O.J. Simpson lost a civil trial, and that civil trial meant that he had to turn over all his money. So he listened to his lawyers and financial advisors, and he bought a house in Bradenton, Florida, near Tampa. Florida has the most strong homestead in the country. You can't take my house for judgments. Not only that, I get to keep 2 cars. No, I get to keep a certain amount of money in my bank account. Florida's homestead is strong. So it doesn't make a difference. It could be the Mar-a-Lago where Donald Trump lives, a sprawling $100 million estate. As long as you live there, you're safe. So he made the right move by making
What about the civil asset forfeiture, though?
Civil asset forfeiture will not apply to his homestead from the federal jurisdiction unless those assets were acquired through sufficiency of fraud or through the scheme itself. He had sufficient revenues from other things such as music, et cetera, to exempt those properties from it. This is why he put his $70 million mansion up for sale as quickly as possible in California, because California probably doesn't have the same homestead as us.
Got it. Wow, this is interesting. All right, everybody, those likes aren't liking. Let's hit that like button. Let's hit that subscribe button. Jump in these comments. We only have 15 comments. You only have 15 questions on everything that we talked about. Come on, jump in those comments. We're going to get to your questions shortly. All right, let's go to the biggest deal of all of this. The biggest deal to me of all of this is that he was denied bail. Not once, but twice. He was denied bail twice. Listen, worse people have been given bail. Murderers get bail. However, Damian Williams said, listen, he said that there's no condition of bail that would assure that Sean Combs would assure the appearance and compliance of the defendant. Meaning he says there's nothing about us giving him bail is going to make sure that he appears in court. Now, Diddy's pushback on this is, I promise, I swear. And guess what? I won't even have any ladies over to the house unless they're
Weirdo.
mother, unless they work for me, or unless they're counsel. Attorney Redwine, is this not tone deaf at the highest level in the courts where you have been denied bail not once but twice?
Abso-freaking-lutely, including the I've never seen this level of desperation with an attorney before. So not only was it tone deaf, they also included, they said, oh, well, Your Honor, he'll hire a private security company and have 3 officers in the house at all times. Oh, and we won't have internet. We'll take the internet out and we'll take his cell phones too. And they're like, what? Right. Not only that, but he was like, oh, but Your Honor, he was an altar boy. He watches church on the internet every day. They literally said that and the judge was like, how far back are you gonna go? Like, she got to be a black lady. If not, she probably got some black mixed like grandkids or something. Because the way that this lady was not playing, so it was absolutely tone deaf, and it was kind of pitiful. It was kind of pitiful to listen.
You know what I thought was very interesting, counselors, is that the prostitution charge, as well as the racketeering charge, they said that it occurred all the way up to the indictment. And that is why Williams said that he is a significant danger to the community. Significant danger is very strong language, criminal attorney Ross, right? And respectfully, that his danger to the community is constantly and repeatedly engaged in obstructive conduct. So that means he's out here still threatening people their lives, right?
But the prosecutors are drunk on the Kool-Aid of justice. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do your job, but they're always going to think someone's wrong. I mean, that's what their job. Their job is designed to make you be guilty from the moment they get you. But the problem for Diddy is that allegedly he reached out to some of these witnesses and tried to coerce their testimony. It happened, right? And that's the problem.
You're in the singing group. What's her name? It wasn't
Danity Kane.
Kalena Harper.
No, not Danity Kane. So he had another
Kalena Harper.
So they have a record of him calling her like 56 times.
Right. This is my thing. Where is Diddy's head? Like, that's the part where I think this is a lot of mental
stuff. Not listening to his lawyer. He's not listening to his lawyer.
But I also think he thinks he's bigger than God. Because
it happens.
If you raided my house and I'm all over the news, I'm all over everything. I've got cases coming up to me day after day after day. I would not be on the phone where you can track my transcript and the pinging of my calls. I would not be on the phone trying to buy people to be quiet. What makes you think that you are not being tapped, number one? And what makes you think that they're not going to use this in the court of law against you, which they are, which is why now you can't get out of jail?
It's terrible.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, even if the calls weren't being tapped, just the number of times he called her, it can be assumed that you were calling her to pressure her. I mean, devil's advocate, you could say, well, he was calling for another reason, right? We don't know why he was calling. The 56 times shows that it appears to be like you're harassing the person, right? No one calls anyone 56 times if it's not under the scope of harassment. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's
unless she's late for her appointment, her freak off.
Her freak off appointment.
Where you at?
Get the baby oil.
Where you at?
Right. So there was some level of urgency or harassment if it's 56 times. But yeah, him calling her 56 times, him, being literally arrested, I think allegedly with some illegal drugs on him. It just, he was making the case easy for them to say, you know what, he's still not learning his lesson. He needs to stay in here. And I actually looked into this because, I'm always trying to obviously play devil's advocate. And I'm like, you know what? I'm actually wrong. I actually researched what I assumed, and I was wrong. So at first I was crying like, well, they let R. Kelly out, and what about Epstein, and what about Weinstein, right? So I looked into it. On the state level, R. Kelly got bond. Right. But on the federal level, he did not get bond.
Neither did Epstein.
Epstein on the federal level did not get bond. Weinstein on the state level did get bond. But again, on the federal level, by that time, he had already been found guilty. So there was no other bond to give him. But my point is, I think at first I thought, well, maybe they're treating him unfairly because didn't all these other people get bonds? Just let him out on bond. But it appears once it goes federal and it's sex trafficking, the precedent says you probably aren't going to get bond. So I had to correct myself. I assumed that maybe they were treating him unfairly. The precedent is federal plus sex trafficking means you don't get a bond based on all the other celebrities. So he's actually not being treated differently.
All right. Before we close up tonight, because I want to make sure we get to the questions, let's talk about Damian Williams. We keep coming back to him, an African-American male married to a beautiful African-American woman. They both met at Harvard. He said that Diddy is a serious risk of flight. His biggest thing in the complaint, right, to the judge, the letter that he wrote to the judge, Bailiff, do we have that letter that he wrote to the judge? He says that Diddy is not only a danger to the community, he repeatedly engaged with obstructive conduct, and he presents a serious risk of flight. Symone Redwine, what does that mean?
It means lock him up and throw away the key. So basically, he's basically saying they don't trust him to be out. They still believe that he would leave. He's got a plane. He's got resources. He's got all of these things. But also that if you leave him out into his own devices, he will obstruct justice by coordinating his minions or himself contacting people and trying to get them to change their stories.
Terrible.
Have we ever witnessed, let me make sure I got this right. Have we ever witnessed someone else in this particular vein of criminality be considered, not get bail, Attorney Ross, be considered such a flight risk? Like, is there another case that we can compare this to?
Well, yeah, obviously your boy, Sam Bankman-Friedman, who had FTX, he started fake crypto. They found that it was fake. Now he fled to the Bahamas, but had he stayed here, they would never let him leave. Jeffrey Epstein, obviously that type of person, they wouldn't let him leave. Ghislaine Maxwell, they wouldn't let her leave. Bernie Madoff, once he got caught, they wouldn't let him out. So the feds and all of these people were in this same jail, which is crazy.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to call you out in my chambers, sir, with the present lawyers here, and they can attest to this. You said he was going to make bail.
I did.
Let me
say what.
You said, counsel, you said that there's no reason that he wouldn't make bail.
And let me tell you.
You were convincing me that he was going to make bail today, but he was denied again. Why?
Why would I say that? Because of my experience. And this is a high-profile TV case, and I believe that factored in. I don't care what you say. Because I see people with similar or worse charges every day. And I sent one to the group today from Ohio. A person was at Ohio State University and shot a gun into a crowd and got bail. There's no allegation that Diddy murdered someone. Yeah, there's terrible allegations. There's terrible allegations. But murder was not one of those indictment grand jury submissions. And he didn't get out. Why? Because in the federal system, right, they reformed the jurisdictional release requirements to make it so people who didn't have cash to afford their bail could get out. The presumption is for release, not for detainment.
That's
on
correct.
The state side, yeah, the presumption is for release, but you have to post what's called a bond to get out, but you don't have any money, so you can't. They didn't have to put in that stuff. You're poor. As long as you can prove that you should get out, really the government proves that you can't, you're fine. I cannot believe he didn't get out. Even though I think you should be in jail for what he did to Cassidy. She's very good looking. You have no right to kick
you mean for all that he did to all these women,
all these people. But
and
the
man,
visual one is the worst.
And man. Okay, let's go to our questions. We have 22 questions we got to get through because we have an attorney that has a hot date.
Hey. Shout out to Electric Lady 369. Thank you for believing in me. Electric Lady 369. I love you.
Girl, is that legal's got a hot date? All right.
I got a date with my vajiggle jaggle. I gotta give myself one of those fertility injections. Sorry, wish me luck, guys. They're gonna go in the cooter, and they're gonna take off the eggs. Whatever's good, they're gonna scramble them up, put them in the fridge. If it's bad, they're gonna put them in the garbage can.
We're praying for
guys.
I just sent everyone a text message that TMI.
All right, here we go, guys. Here we go, counselors. Chuck Stovall said, so they're going to submit a dissociative disorder as a defense.
A dissociative disorder meaning mental incapacity?
I
doubt it.
No, they're not going to submit that as a defense.
No, because it's too much that they got to argue on the other side. Okay, NY1206 says, with the indictment, if he is found guilty of all the charges, will he get life or would he get out in 10 years? I think
a minimum of 15.
Right.
It's minimum of 15 because sex trafficking is.
What would possibly get him life?
He's not going to
being found guilty on all of them.
The arson, the extensive. Let me tell you something. The government, while this is, remember to listen to your lawyer. The first step I tell my clients, there's going to be a big thing coming our way, a wave, a lot of drama. All right. Work with me. Step back. Okay. I'm sorry you're in jail. Let me do my job. The government has a problem. These witnesses, these people they're relying on are they're not creditable individuals. They'll have criminal convictions, which will come into play. They have biases. They're chasing them for money. They're people who have been doing drugs before. Fine. You want to charge my client with doing and coercing you into do cocaine? Is he pushing your head down and making you blow that line in that video? We have our own videos too. Trust me. The stuff that you got to Diddy, if he has half a brain, is backed up to a server and we can push play just like the title of one of his CDs. So there's a lot of stuff there that's going to come out, not just the bad stuff that we're reading today on day.
Oh, Brian, let me find out you're a good lawyer. Let me find out, counselor. Let me find out you're getting aggressive.
I just want to make a point about that really quickly. You notice in the indictment. And I know they don't have to. They didn't list what the digital evidence was.
Correct.
They didn't say, "Oh, we found 100 videotapes or 30 audio recordings or nothing." So it's like it tells me either you don't have a lot or whatever you do have, maybe you just don't want to show your hand to the defense.
I think I wouldn't show my hand to the defense because he's got one of the best attorneys in the country. All right, let's keep going. Leslie Gomez says, how many AKs is someone allowed? In this case, as many as they are. All right, L. Anderson said, why did his attorney mention the conditions in jail? Do judges ever take this into consideration? And if so, why?
No, they know that jail is raggedy. The only time it comes into consideration is if you have a specific health condition where it can matter and you can't get access to your medications or something like that, like cancer or something like that. They don't care about this man.
Yeah, they don't care.
Got it. All right, next up. Abby NYC, the MM family. If he keeps changing his name, could he be hiding assets as Brother Love or Love? No. I know that one, right? No. He can't.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
Olga Parker, can people ignore subpoenas? Hell no.
No. I mean, you can.
You get locked up for that.
Yeah, you gonna get locked up.
I mean, you can do it. Just get locked up.
Hey, we're going to talk about, not tonight, but a friend of mine is a witness. Got subpoenaed, been running from that server, got served. You go to jail if you don't answer that subpoena. All right. Sid said, did Diddy have to sit in jail at all for the Shine case? I don't think he did.
No. It was a state court matter. That's my sister. Love you, boo-boo. And no, he did not at all. Okay. It was state court matter.
Deaf God says Symone got that Claudia Wi-Fi.
You nasty man.
Oh, wait a minute. Abby NYC said baby oil breaks condoms. Maybe that's why there were no condoms found.
That's true.
All right, Abby NYC, how you know?
That's true.
All right. GTS said, why haven't we been able to see any footage of Diddy going in and out of the courthouse? That's a good point. And why haven't we seen photos of his arrest? Because it was arranged, right? Attorney Ross?
No. The arrest was not arranged. No, the arrest, he went straight from, it was in the middle of the night. They took him from his hotel in the middle of the night. Yeah. So probably paparazzi didn't know to be there. But that's also suspicious how paparazzi just happened to catch him hanging out in front of the hotel on a street corner, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then at the park earlier today. But
that was definitely staged.
Yeah, they happened to be away when he was getting arrested.
But Attorney Ross, you did share that maybe there was constant communication between his lawyer. He did come to New York City specifically because there was some type of communication to let him know that they may be coming after you soon, correct?
Yeah, and his attorney, Mark Agnafilo, confirmed that we've been taught. What did he say in a press conference on the street? We knew this was going to happen the whole time. Yeah, nothing shocking here. They knew. And people need to understand that when you're dealing with the feds, it's not like your state court in California, Florida, New York. When you're dealing with the feds, it's sophisticated. The U.S. attorney is calling saying, hey, look, we have this. Do you want to help us out? Do you want to help us out? And you send stuff in. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. We're talking.
Okay, Riri said, will the police departments that were working with Diddy face any legal ramifications?
If they're sued.
Ooh, this is true. Cool Dad Ventures said, is baby oil better? Oh, now you know what, Cool Dad. Is baby oil better than Vaseline or KY? Hey, oil based or water based? Red or blue pill? You know what?
I know Cool Dad Adventures. Ignore his question. I know him.
Oh, you know him? You bring out the freaks to the clubhouse. All right. Francine Smith Diddy brought the footage from the hotel for $50,000. The feds found that footage when they raided Diddy house. I'm very familiar with that hotel, and you're absolutely right. He paid for it. I think if I would have paid for that footage, I would have destroyed it. And it was $50,000. Dirty Mac, question is, what's the time he was allegedly, guys? Allegedly. Dirty Mac, question is, what's the time he will serve, and will it be on the federal level? We don't know. We know that minimum is 15 years. J Love said, Diddy brought this on himself. When Cassie tried to go to the outside of court, he refused to acknowledge her suit. I agree with that. He can't blame nobody but himself.
Yeah,
all he had to do is pay it out.
All he had to do was pay it out.
We wouldn't be there because the complaint would have never came out, and then all the other complaints.
But wait a minute. Now he had it to pay. Whatever the amount is, he did have it to pay. But again, the insurance company is who had the ultimate decision to pay, and they were not going to pay for it until she filed suit. But
it was because talks dropped down between her and him and their attorneys. He was like, beat it. And so she was like, oh, you want me to beat it? I'm going to show you a beat it. Now, what you say he protected in jail?
His butthole, that bussy, that tussie, that bussy and that tussie.
I don't know. I think Cool Dad Ventures asked us, is it Vaseline or KY? Which one is better?
Let me tell you something, though. These police departments, these officers who allegedly took this money to cover some of this stuff up, they got to be sweating. They're sweating bullets right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they got to be. Everybody's sweating bullets. Okay, let's go to G-Dub. Can there be other charges added to the Cuff Daddy as others start talking?
Yes.
That's his whole point. That's the whole point. A lot of people
already said nothing is off the table. He already said that these are the initial charges, but at any point, charges can be.
And the interesting part is, and Symone, you could correct me on this, they're giving immunity for people if you come forward and add to the case to get him convicted. So this is the point. When you saw this big headline splash, all those people that were afraid their names were going to come out, they probably are running to their attorneys and said, hey, give me immunity and I'll talk. Just saying. All right, all about C. So questions. Wouldn't Love's mother, the IT chick that helped him spy on others, is there a charge should be locked up soon too? I don't know.
Have to be charged.
The most ridiculous. I just think that's a very ridiculous thing. We'll see if it's true, but I would like, if anyone can help, drop down in the comments or chat, direct me towards a source that's confirmed this or even had some strong allegations. Because I believe if this was as sound of an allegation as the internet's trying to make it, it would have been included in the indictment.
Yeah, I think so
any
too.
of the supporting materials. Particularly, it would have been in the materials from Damian Williams against Bond, right? Because he outlined all the different things. One of them certainly would have been spying on other people, et cetera, et cetera. That wasn't there. I think this is a made up.
Right. Maybe they're holding that back. Okay. Yeah. Electric Lady 369 isn't the Watuchi a dance?
A dance? No, supposedly it's a drug too.
I know, right? Okay.
It's a drug and a dance.
All right, that drug will make you dance. All right, JFE Network. So it's getting flued
out. Illegal. It's not illegal. But if you are a prostitute and somebody's putting you on a plane, yes, it's transportation of prostitution, so it becomes illegal. If you're not a prostitute,
so let me ask you then. Okay, we done opened up a whole nother bag of worms. So,
oh Lord,
if he meets a young lady off of IG, and she's known to accommodate men and all the different basketball teams,
but she's not an official prostitute. Correct?
But if she flies out there, she has sex with him, and then he passes her around to the different football players, and they all give $10,000. What's that called?
Sex trafficking.
A donation.
Chill.
It's called an honorarium.
It's
an honorarium.
You know what, ladies, you do know. Let me remind you, ladies, that you are licensed and barred in the state.
What they call it when they do it in the church? It's called passing the plate. Pass the plate.
What I'm saying, you are not. I'm gonna just put it out here, and people can disagree.
Okay.
Just because you have been flown out and you've been consensual,
a love offering.
You have a consensual act with someone, and then they want to give you
share you with their friends
because maybe they really like you. That is not prostitution. I'm not asking for the gift. I'm not requiring the gift. I'm also not requiring for you to put me on a plane. So A, I'm not a prostitute, and B, accepting monetary gifts does not make
Jay, I want to let you know Brian Ross Law Group is expanding.
We've covered this before.
I love the way you sold that. It sounded
you ladies are killing me.
You are hired.
Great.
You ladies are killing me.
You just want a love offering, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't think I've ever had a moment, Judge Al Reynolds, on your show where I actually agreed with the ladies.
Oh, you did.
They fell in line.
Yeah, you're a sucker too. You falling for all their charisma and all their smarts. All right, Lisa Cohen said, will Gene Deal also do time? Will Gene Deal also?
That's his security guard.
Oh,
he has to be charged.
He's probably going to get immunity. He's probably going to get immunity if he talks.
Yeah.
Okay. G Lolo said, "How was what Hefner done any different?"
I don't know.
It was a different time, man. Let me tell you something. There was no smartphones. There was no internet. When he was doing in the 70s, it was a completely different time. You can't. It's sorry. He was born at the right time.
Has anybody complained to say it was forced? I've never heard any forced complaints. I've heard.
Yep, I have not either.
So, in the minute somebody said,
"Well, no. Little Rod said he was forced."
No,
we're talking about Hugh Hefner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, nobody's ever complained that it was forced, so it's never going to be on the criminal, federal, or state level. It's never going to.
Because didn't he put everybody on the payroll? Didn't he pay? He listed them as employees.
Like 20 women living in that Playboy mansion with him.
At hundreds.
Yeah, no one ever complained it was forced.
Right. So. Last question. Callie of NOLA says, "Was that a federal crime?" I'm not sure what she's talking about. He or she is talking about there, but. Symone Redwine, thank you so much for staying with us till the end.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, algoritors, listen, be sure to join us back. Turn on your notifications because we may have a special edition tomorrow. But coming up on tomorrow or Friday, we're going to talk about what's next for Diddy. We're going to talk about Cassie being listed as a witness. And we're also going to talk about a friend of mine who's also listed as a witness. And we're going to get to more audience questions as we break down all the details of Diddy Do It. Also, please don't forget to go to my YouTube channel, the one that you're on right now, and view the playlist for the Court of Public Opinion. If you're behind on any of this, Symone Redwine and Brian Ross have been following this. We've been following this for months now. So if there's anything that you feel like you missed on, we'll bring you up to speed if you watch the playlist, episodes 1 through 5, and this playlist 6. This will conclude today's sessions in the Court of Public Opinion. Please don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button if you're subscribed already, that share button, turn on your notifications, and get ready for more details coming soon. Court is now adjourned.